Poor dad helps fix paralyzed woman wheelchair in the rain, unaware she was a billionaire. Have you ever had a single rainy evening change the course of your entire life? Stick with me till the end, because what you're about to hear might just remind you that kindness can open doors you never imagined. The rain poured mercilessly over the quiet suburban street. It was one of those evenings when the sky looked like it had no bottom, dark clouds rolling, lightning flashing far away, thunder grumbling. Malik Carter, a 32-year-old construction worker, was walking home after a long day at the site. His work boots were soaked, his gray shirt clinging to his muscular frame, and his only umbrella had broken earlier that afternoon. Malik wasn't just tired, he was exhausted, both physically and mentally. Rent was due in a week, his little daughter Mia needed money for school supplies, and he had just learned that his second job at the warehouse might be cutting hours. Life felt like a never-ending storm, and tonight the real storm wasn't helping. But then he saw something. At the far left side of the road, near the corner of a small park, sat an elderly woman in a wheelchair. She was drenched, struggling desperately to move forward, her thin hands slipping on the wet wheels. Malik's first thought was, what is she doing here in this weather? Cars drove past, some splashing more water on her. No one stopped. People hurried by with umbrellas, barely glancing in her direction. Something inside Malik stirred. He couldn't just walk past her, not tonight. He ran over, crouching beside her. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Malik asked, raising his voice over the pounding rain. The old woman looked up, her silver hair sticking to her forehead. Her pale blue eyes were filled with worry. "My wheelchair, it's stuck. The wheel came loose," she said in a shaky voice. Without hesitation, Malik knelt on one knee in the mud, ignoring how dirty and wet he was getting. "Don't worry, I'll fix it." For the next 15 minutes, Malik worked with his bare hands. His construction training came in handy as he tightened the loose wheel using a coin from his pocket as a makeshift tool. Every time lightning flashed, he saw the fear on the woman's face. Every time thunder roared, she winced. Malik knew she was scared, not just because of the rain, but because she was completely alone. Finally, with one last push, the wheel clicked into place. "You're a good man," the woman said softly as Malik stood up, soaked to the bone. Malik smiled faintly, trying to brush off her words. "Just doing what anyone should do." "No," she said firmly, "not everyone would stop, not in this weather. What's your name?" Malik Carter." The woman nodded slowly, as if committing it to memory. "My name is Eleanor Whitmore. You might have just saved me from spending the night out here." Malik offered to push her home. At first she refused, but when the rain got heavier, she agreed. As they moved through the quiet streets, Malik couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about her. Eleanor spoke with a certain calmness, the kind of calm only people who have lived through storms of their own could have. When they reached her home, Malik was shocked. It wasn't a regular house, it was a huge white Victorian-style mansion sitting at the end of a private drive. Eleanor insisted that Malik come inside to dry off. Malik hesitated, men like him didn't belong in houses like this. But she smiled warmly and said, "Kindness should never leave wet footprints at my door. Come inside." He followed her in, and for the first time in a long time, Malik felt warmth, not just from the fire crackling in her grand fireplace, but from the way this woman treated him like he mattered. Over tea, Eleanor asked Malik about his life. He told her about Mia, about his wife leaving years ago, about how hard he was trying to give his daughter a better future. Eleanor listened intently, her expression unreadable. Then she said something strange. "Malik, sometimes the storms we face are preparing us for blessings we cannot yet see." Malik didn't know it then, but this night would change his life forever. And here where it gets interesting. Because Malik had no idea who Eleanor Whitmore really was, or that the kindness he showed her tonight would lead to something so extraordinary, it would not only transform his life but rewrite his daughter's future. The next morning, Malik woke up still thinking about the events of last night. He sat at the small kitchen table of his two-room apartment, sipping instant coffee while Mia played with her crayons nearby. The rain had stopped, but inside Malik's heart, the worries were still pouring. He had missed overtime at the warehouse to help Eleanor, and that meant even less money on his next paycheck. But strangely, he didn't regret it. Something about that old woman's words wouldn't leave his mind. Sometimes the storms we face are preparing us for blessings we cannot yet see. Around noon, Malik's phone buzzed. "Hello, is this Malik Carter?" a polite female voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Ruth, Mrs. Alina Whitmore's assistant. She asked me to invite you and your daughter to lunch at her home today. She said you were the reason she's safe right now." Malik blinked, confused. No one had ever invited him to a mansion for lunch before. When Malik told Mia, her little brown eyes lit up. "We're going to a mansion, like in the movies, Daddy." Malik smiled and nodded. "Yes, baby, but you've got to be on your best behavior." Mia giggled. "I will, I promise." Malik found her nicest dress, a little yellow sundress with a tiny tear at the hem. He ironed his only clean shirt and prayed quietly that he wouldn't embarrass himself. When they arrived, the massive wrought iron gates opened slowly. Malik felt small as they drove up the long driveway. Alina was waiting on the porch in her wheelchair, smiling warmly. "You came, and you brought your beautiful daughter," she said, reaching out her hand to Mia. Mia ran forward and hugged her without hesitation. Alina's smile widened, the kind of smile that looked like she hadn't had this kind of warmth in years. Inside, the dining room was something out of a magazine: a long oak table, crystal chandeliers, silverware that probably cost more than Malik's monthly rent. But Alina didn't act fancy or proud. She spoke to them like old friends. "Malik," she said after they had eaten, "tell me about your dreams. If money was not a problem, what would you do?" Malik hesitated. No one had ever asked him that. I'd open my own construction business someday, hire good men who just need a second chance, and I'd give Mia the education she deserves." Alina's eyes softened, but she didn't say anything yet. After lunch, Alina asked Malik to wheel her into her study. The walls were lined with books and photographs, black and white pictures of Alina as a young woman, standing next to a man who looked like a wealthy businessman. "That was my late husband," she said quietly. "He built one of the biggest real estate companies in this state. When he passed away, I took over." Malik's heart skipped. This wasn't just some random elderly woman, she was a big deal. Alina turned to him and asked, "Malik, if you could help someone, even if it cost you, would you still do it?" "Yes, ma'am, I believe we should always do right no matter what." She nodded slowly, as though she had just confirmed something important. Before Malik left, Alina surprised him again. "Would you be willing to stop by a few times a week? I could use someone strong to help me around the house. I'd pay you fairly, of course." Malik hesitated. He already had 2 jobs, but something inside told him this was more than just work. "Yes," he said finally, "I'll do it." As Malik and Mia left the mansion, Alina watched them go, her expression thoughtful. She turned to Ruth, her assistant, and whispered, "Prepare the paperwork. I think we may have just found the man who can carry out the plan." The camera would linger on Alina's face here, a mix of hope and determination, before cutting to black. Over the next 2 weeks, Malik kept his promise. Every Tuesday and Thursday after his construction job, he would head to Alina's mansion to help with little tasks, carrying groceries, fixing leaky faucets, and sometimes just sitting with her while she talked. Mia loved it. The mansion had a library with children's books, and Alina would often read to her by the big fireplace. Little by little, Malik realized Alina wasn't just paying him to work, she was paying him to be present. One rainy evening, as Malik tightened a window latch, Alina suddenly asked, "Malik, do you believe some people are sent into our lives for a reason?" He paused. "Yes, I do. I think God uses people to help us when we need it most." Alina smiled sadly. "I used to believe that too, and lately I think I believe it again." Later that night, Alina asked Malik to bring her a box from the top shelf of her study closet. Inside were dozens of photographs. She handed one to Malik. It was a picture of a young man, tall, broad-shouldered, smiling. "That was my son Daniel," she said softly. Malik looked closer. Daniel had the same kind of gentle strength Malik saw in the mirror every morning. "What happened to him?" Malik asked carefully. Alina's eyes watered. 5 years ago, Daniel was driving home from a charity event. There was an accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. He didn't make it. Her voice broke on the last word and Malik's chest tightened. That night I lost my son and my will to live, she whispered. I became bitter, angry at the world. I stopped leaving the house until... She glanced at Malik, her eyes shining. Until the night you stopped in the rain. Malik didn't know what to say, he just sat there letting her words sink in. Alina continued. You remind me of him, the way you didn't hesitate to help me, it's exactly what Daniel would have done. For a moment, Malik felt a strange warmth, like maybe this meeting really was more than coincidence. Mia skipped into the room just then, holding a drawing. Look, Daddy, I drew us and Miss Alina under the rain. Alina chuckled, taking the drawing in her wrinkled hands. This is beautiful, can I keep it? Mia nodded proudly. Yes, you're part of our family now. Malik's throat tightened. Out of the mouth of babes it almost felt prophetic. After Mia went to play, Alina leaned closer to Malik. I need to tell you something. The reason I wanted you to keep coming back is because I don't just need help with the house, I need someone I can trust. Malik frowned. Trust for what? Alina hesitated before answering. To make sure my life's work doesn't go to waste when I'm gone. Gone? Malik asked, alarmed. Alina nodded slowly. I'm 73, Malik, and though I look fine now, my health isn't what it used to be. I have no husband, no surviving family. My entire estate, my businesses, my fortune will go to charity when I pass. But I want to make sure it goes to the right people and the right hands. Malik's heart pounded. He wasn't sure what she meant. Was she hinting that she wanted him involved? Alina reached over, taking his hand in her frail fingers. I think I've found the right hands, but I need to be sure before I make any decisions. That's why I've been watching you, Malik, and soon I will have an answer. Malik didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of the biggest test of his character, one that would determine whether Alina entrusted him with something that could change his entire life. The next week, Malik arrived at Alina's house as usual. Something felt different. The house seemed quieter, as though everyone knew something he didn't. Malik, Alina said, motioning for him to sit. I need your help with something important. Ruth will take you to the office downtown today to collect a package for me. Inside is something very valuable. Malik nodded. Of course, I'll take care of it. Before he left, Alina looked him in the eyes and said, Malik, no matter what happens today, just do what you know is right, not what is easy, not what is tempting, what is right. Her words lingered in Malik's mind as he drove away. At the office, Ruth handed him a small leather briefcase. Mrs. Whitmore trusts you with this. Take it straight to her study when you get back, Ruth instructed. Malik nodded, but when he got into his car, curiosity got the better of him. The case wasn't locked. He hesitated for a moment, then opened it slightly and his breath caught. Inside was stack upon stack of $100 bills, at least $50,000 in cash. For a moment Malik's mind spun. $50,000 could change everything. He could pay off his rent for a whole year, buy Mia all the school supplies she needed, and maybe even get ahead on his dream of starting a construction business. No one had to know. He could just say the money never made it to him. But then he remembered Alina's words, do what you know is right. Malik shut the briefcase immediately, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. As if the universe wanted to make the decision harder, Malik's phone buzzed. It was his landlord. Mr. Carter, if I don't get the rent by Friday, I'm evicting you. I'm tired of waiting. Malik closed his eyes. The pressure was unbearable. But deep inside he knew this was more than a delivery. This was a test. When Malik returned to the mansion, Alina was waiting in the study. He placed the briefcase on the table without saying a word. Alina looked at him for a long moment before opening it. All of it is here? She asked quietly. Yes, ma'am, Malik said, untouched. Alina closed the briefcase slowly and smiled, but it wasn't just any smile. It was a knowing smile, one that said she had just gotten the answer she was looking for. Thank you, Malik, you've done well. Malik felt a weight lift from his shoulders, but he still didn't understand why this mattered so much to her. That evening, Alina asked Malik to stay for dinner. After Mia had gone to bed, she spoke again. Malik, do you know why I asked you to deliver that briefcase yourself? Malik shook his head. Because money reveals a person's true heart, and tonight you showed me yours. Malik sat there stunned. It had been a test. Eleanor wheeled closer to him. I have decided something, Malik, something that may change both of our lives, but before I tell you what it is, I want you to think about what you truly want for your future. Think carefully, because the next time you come here I will have an offer for you. Malik nodded slowly, his heart pounding. That night as Malik tucked Mir into bed, she asked innocently, Daddy, do you think Miss Eleanor is like an angel? Malik smiled faintly. Maybe she is, baby girl, maybe she is. But he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever offer Eleanor was preparing could be bigger than anything he'd ever dreamed of. For the next 3 days, Malik could barely focus at work. His construction foreman shouted orders, but Malik's mind was elsewhere. What could Eleanor's offer possibly be? A bigger job, a bonus, some kind of charity donation? At night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if his entire life was about to shift. On Saturday, Eleanor's driver came to pick Malik and Mia up. This time, the car didn't just take them to the mansion, it drove them out to a quiet countryside estate Eleanor owned, a place Malik had never been before. The house was smaller than her mansion but still elegant, surrounded by acres of open land. Eleanor was waiting for them on the porch, dressed simply, her hair tied back. Today, she said softly, we're going to talk about the future. After Mia was taken to play in the garden with Ruth, Eleanor and Malik sat together in the sunroom. Malik, Eleanor began, I've spent years watching people fight over money, children suing their parents, siblings tearing each other apart over inheritances. I vowed I would never let my fortune become a curse. She took a deep breath. But I also believe that money is a tool and in the right hands it can change lives. I think your hands might be the right ones. Eleanor slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents with her company's logo on top. I want you to come work for me, she said. Not as a laborer, as a trainee. I will personally mentor you to take over one of my real estate divisions. If you succeed, it could open doors for your own business one day, and if you fail, you will still have gained valuable experience. Malik stared at her shocked. Me run one of your companies? I don't even have a college degree. Eleanor smiled. Degrees are paper, character is gold, and you've already proven yours. Malik's mind spun. This wasn't just an offer, this was a new life. But with that new life came risk. What if he failed? What if people said he didn't deserve it? I don't know if I can do this, he admitted. Eleanor reached out, touching his hand. You can, I believe in you, but you have to believe in yourself. Just then, Mia came running back in with a flower crown on her head. Daddy, Miss Eleanor says we can pick as many flowers as we want because they grow back. Malik smiled then froze. They grow back. It hit him. Opportunities were like flowers. If you were too afraid to pick them, you might miss the season forever. He turned back to Eleanor, determination in his eyes. I'll do it, I'll take the chance, I'll work hard and make you proud. Eleanor's face softened into a smile, not just of happiness but of relief. That's all I needed to hear. Eleanor handed him a set of keys. These are to a small apartment near the office. I want you and Mia to move in next month. No more worrying about late rent or eviction threats. You need stability if you're going to succeed. Malik was speechless. He had never been offered such kindness, such trust. As the sun set over the estate, Eleanor looked out across the field and whispered, almost to herself. Daniel, I think I've finally found someone who can carry the torch. Malik didn't hear her, but soon he would learn just how much of her legacy she was preparing to place in his hands. Malik stood outside the tall glass building that housed Whitmore Real Estate's headquarters. His palms were sweaty, and for the first time in years he felt out of place. Inside, men in tailored suits and women in designer heels moved quickly through the halls. Malik's work boots felt heavy, his button-up shirt too stiff. But he took a deep breath and stepped inside. He wasn't here just for himself, he was here for Mia, for Eleanor, and for the dream he'd always carried quietly in his heart. Eleanor had assigned Malik to work under Mr. Preston Hale, one of her senior managers. Preston was tall, well-groomed, and clearly not impressed when Malik walked in. So you're the one Mrs. Whitmore chose, Preston said, looking Malik up and down. No degree, no experience, just heart, I guess. Malik swallowed his pride. Yes, sir, I'm here to learn. Preston smirked. We'll see if you can keep up. Throughout the office, Malik could feel the stares. He's just a construction worker. Mrs. Whitmore must have lost her mind. Bet he won't last a week. Malik tried to ignore it, but every whisper felt like a nail being driven into his confidence. On his third day, Preston gave Malik a nearly impossible task: organizing files from dozens of real estate properties and preparing a detailed report by the next morning. "This will show me if you have what it takes," Preston said with a smug smile. Malik knew this was a test, maybe even a trap, but he stayed late working until midnight. When Malik came home exhausted, Mia was still awake, waiting. "Daddy, I made you a drawing for your new office," she said, holding up a picture of him standing proudly in front of a tall building. Malik smiled tiredly. "Thanks, baby girl, I'm trying my best." "You're the strongest man I know," Mia said seriously. "Miss Aliner says storms make trees grow stronger. You're like a big tree." Those words gave Malik the strength to push through. The next morning, Malik presented the report, not only on time but organized better than anyone expected. Even Preston raised an eyebrow. "Not bad," he said reluctantly. "Looks like you're not as useless as I thought." The whispers in the office quieted, but Malik knew this was just the beginning. Later that week, someone accidentally deleted a file Malik had spent hours compiling. Ruth, Aliner's assistant, pulled him aside. "Be careful, Malik, not everyone wants you here. Some think you're after Mrs. Whitmore's money." Malik clenched his fists. He wasn't here to steal anything, he was here to work. That evening, Malik visited Aliner. "They're trying to push me out," he admitted. Aliner's blue eyes twinkled. "That's because you're shaking the ground they thought was theirs alone. Don't fight them with anger, Malik, fight them with excellence. Make them respect you by proving them wrong." Malik nodded slowly. This wasn't just about a job anymore, this was about dignity. As Malik left, Preston stood by the window upstairs watching. "Let's see how long you last, Carter," he muttered under his breath, "because I'm not letting you take what should have been mine." One Monday morning, Preston walked into Malik's office with a strange smile. "Big chance for you, Carter," he said. "Mrs. Whitmore wants a proposal on the new downtown project by tomorrow. I'm putting you in charge of compiling the data." Malik nodded, determined. This was exactly the kind of opportunity he had been waiting for. But something about Preston's tone made him uneasy. Malik stayed up all night working on the proposal. He double-checked every figure, every document. By dawn, he had prepared a detailed, professional report, the best work he'd ever done. When he got to the office, he placed the folder on Preston's desk. Preston smiled faintly. "I'll review this before we give it to Mrs. Whitmore." Later that afternoon, Malik was called into Aliner's office, and she did not look pleased. "Malik," she said, holding up the proposal, "do you know what this is?" "Yes, ma'am, it's the report I worked on. This report contains false numbers, and if I hadn't caught it, we could have lost millions." Malik's heart stopped. "What? That can't be right. I triple-checked everything." But Aliner's expression was unreadable. After the meeting, Malik confronted Preston. "You changed my report, didn't you?" Preston gave him a cold smile. "Prove it." Malik realized he had no hard evidence, no way to show that Preston had tampered with his work. Word spread fast. By the end of the day, everyone in the office was whispering, "He blew it. I knew he wasn't ready. Mrs. Whitmore will drop him now." Malik felt the walls closing in. This was exactly what Preston wanted, for him to quit and disappear quietly. That night, Malik sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. Mia climbed onto his lap. "Daddy, are we going to lose everything?" she asked softly. Malik hugged her tight. "No, baby, we won't, because we don't give up, ever." Her little voice was like fuel for his spirit. The next morning, Ruth called Malik quietly into the records room. "I know what happened," she whispered. "Preston swapped your report with a doctored one before giving it to Mrs. Whitmore. The security cameras in the copy room can prove it." Malik's heart raced. This was his chance to clear his name, but confronting Preston could also backfire if Aliner thought he was just trying to shift blame. Malik gathered the footage and walked straight into Aliner's office. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need you to see this," he said, placing the USB drive on her desk. Eleanor watched the footage in silence, Preston taking Malik's report, switching it with another folder and smirking to himself. When it was over, she turned slowly toward Malik. Malik, Eleanor said quietly, you just proved something far more important than numbers. You proved that you will fight for the truth even when it costs you everything. She pressed a button on her desk phone. Ruth, send Mr. Hale to my office, immediately. The episode would end here, leaving viewers desperate to see Preston face the consequences. Preston Hale strolled into Eleanor's office with his usual smug look. You wanted to see me? Yes, Preston, Eleanor said, her voice icy. Close the door. Malik sat quietly in the corner, clutching the USB drive. Eleanor didn't waste time. She played the security footage on the big screen. The room went silent as Preston's face appeared, switching out Malik's folder and grinning as if he had just won a game. When the clip ended, Eleanor turned to Preston. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Preston's smirk faltered. This isn't what it looks like. Malik's work was sloppy and I was trying to protect the company. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. You tampered with another man's work and almost cost us a major deal, and you call that protection? Preston's face turned red. For the first time since joining the company, Malik spoke up with confidence. Mrs. Whitmore, I've worked hard to prove I belong here. I'm not perfect, but I will never compromise my integrity, ever. Eleanor nodded slowly, her expression softening toward him. Eleanor turned to Preston. You're done here, Preston, effective immediately. Preston's jaw dropped. You can't do this. Oh, I can, Eleanor said firmly, and I just did. Security will escort you out. As Preston stormed out, Malik felt a weight lift off his shoulders. When the office cleared, Eleanor poured herself a glass of water and looked at Malik. You remind me of my late husband, she said quietly. He was a man who came from nothing, worked his way up, and never let anyone make him feel small. Watching you fight for your dignity these past few weeks has reminded me why I built this company in the first place. Malik was speechless. That afternoon, Eleanor called a company-wide meeting. I have an important announcement, she said, standing at the front of the room. As of today, Malik Carter is officially promoted to project manager. The employees gasped, some clapped, others looked shocked. But Eleanor wasn't done. I am also stepping back from day-to-day operations, Eleanor continued. I've decided to set up a community outreach fund to help underprivileged families, and Malik will be leading that initiative. Malik's knees almost buckled, he could barely breathe. This fund will help people like you once were, Eleanor said, looking him in the eye. People who just need a chance. Malik fought back tears. Mrs. Whitmore, I don't know what to say. Say you'll do good with what I'm giving you, Eleanor said with a gentle smile. I will, Malik promised, his voice steady. I'll make sure this changes lives. The room erupted into applause, and for the first time Malik felt fully accepted. A week after the company-wide announcement, Malik got a call from Eleanor's assistant, Ruth. Mrs. Whitmore would like you to come to the estate tonight, she said. She says it's important, and to bring Mia with you. Malik's heart raced. He couldn't imagine what was left to say, but he dressed in his best shirt, held Mia's hand, and drove to Eleanor's mansion. When they arrived, Eleanor was waiting for them on the porch, wearing a soft blue sweater and a smile. Come in, she said warmly. Mia ran to hug her and Eleanor laughed, a sound Malik realized he hadn't heard much of before. Dinner was quiet, almost like family. Eleanor asked Mia about school, about her favorite books, about her dreams. I want to be an engineer like Daddy, Mia said proudly. Eleanor's eyes softened. Then you'll be a very good one. After dinner, Eleanor led Malik to her study. On the desk was a stack of legal papers. These are my final arrangements, Eleanor said gently. I'm not leaving yet, Malik, but I need to prepare for the day I do. Malik frowned. Mrs. Whitmore, you don't need to tell me this. I do, she interrupted softly, because you're a part of it. Eleanor took a deep breath. I've added you and Mia to my will, she said. When my time comes, this house and a share of the company will be yours. You'll have the resources to raise your daughter without fear. Malik's mouth fell open. Mrs. Whitmore, I can't accept this. Yes, you can, she said, taking his hand. You've earned it, not with money but with heart, You reminded me what real humanity looks like." For the first time in years, Malik cried freely, not from pain or frustration, but from gratitude. "I used to think the world didn't see me," he whispered. "But you saw me." Eleanor smiled, tears in her own eyes. "That's all most of us want, Malik, to be seen. Now promise me you'll use this gift to lift others." "I promise," Malik said firmly. Months later, Malik launched the Whitmore Carter Foundation, a program providing scholarships, mentorship, and training for young people from struggling communities. The first recipient of the scholarship was a teenage girl who reminded Malik of Mia, bright-eyed and determined, but without support. Malik gave her the news personally and said, "You're not alone anymore." On the anniversary of that rainy night when Malik first met Eleanor, he and Mia visited her grave. "Thank you," Malik said quietly. "You didn't just change our lives, you changed who we are." Mia placed flowers and whispered, "I'll make you proud, Grandma Eleanor." The story closes with Malik standing on a community center stage, speaking to a group of kids. "I was just a guy trying to fix a broken wheelchair in the rain," he said with a smile. And that moment changed everything. So never underestimate the power of one small act of kindness, because it could open the door to the life you've been praying for. The kids applauded, and Malik felt peace settle over him. He had gone from struggling to survive to living a life of purpose. And that's the lesson: you never know whose life you might touch with one act of kindness. Malik's story shows us that no storm lasts forever, and that sometimes the person you help ends up being the one who changes everything for you. If this story inspired you, share it, because someone out there needs to hear this today.